All right, welcome back to episode 18 of the Start the Rebuild podcast, otherwise known as the STR podcast. I'm your co-host Tim Fournier alongside Ian Mills.
What's going on, everybody? It is September 20th. Do you remember the 21st night of September?
Do you?
Do you remember? People ask. It is tomorrow. It is not today. But today is Friday. Tim, how's your week been?
My week, let's see. It's been very good. I have my first two tests in grad school next week. And it just so happens that I have a plan or a trip this weekend to Nashville to go to to visit some college friends from Wisconsin. One moved to Nashville. The Packers are playing the Titans, so we're all getting together and going to the game. And once I realized, like once I got that syllabus on the first day of class, that both of the classes I'm taking, both exams are back-to-back days, and I'm going to be gone to Nashville the weekend before them. I was like, oh crap. So this past, week or so has been packed with studying, just trying to get ahead of it all before I get absolutely nothing done the next few days. So I've been doing that and training for a marathon. I ran the furthest I've ever ran today, 15 miles, which I am literally destroyed. But yeah, that's been my week. It's been running and studying and running and studying. So, how about you?
Productive. Uh, for me, it's been a lot of work, working a lot, but I've kind of like now that I've like moved back in with my parents for the short term, it's
Hmm.
kind of my schedule. I don't know. I feel like I've been more productive around my non-work hours, which is kind of nice. Or maybe not. Yeah, like I think just being forcing myself to unpack has been a big thing. Like just making sure my room is unpacked, which is nice. So that's
Yeah.
kind of been the thing. Um, I went I went swimming for the first time like 2 nights ago. It like first time in months, or not months, years really. And it was really
Sure.
cold. It was after work and it was freezing. So that wasn't fun, but swimming is cool.
Where'd you swim?
Oh, my parents have a pool above
Oh
my
yeah,
house. Oh yeah.
legendary pool.
Oh yeah, great pool. Who can forget that pool? So went in that. That was cool. But yeah, so honestly, my entire week has just kind of been like working and then trying to find stuff to do outside of work, going to the gym, grocery shopping. Like yesterday, my entire day was like grocery shopping, had a couple meetings, and then like mowed my mom's lawn and then met with friends. And it was like a very packed, fulfilled day, and then watched the game at night. Um, I've been trying my hardest to like watch one movie a day, which like doesn't sound like a super productive thing to do, but it's helped kind of my creative process with work and being able to write and kind of encouraged me to want to keep going, which is kind of cool. Even like like I've been watching, I watched this movie called Civil War like 2 days ago. It's on HBO Max, dude. Really, it was pretty good. It was honestly one of those things where it was just like very like aesthetically pleasing.
Is it
So
about the Civil War?
so no, it's not. Yeah, so it's actually not about the Civil War of 1860 to 1864. It is about the Civil War of potentially like a future one. Honestly, I think calling it Civil War almost does the movie a disservice because it isn't really all that much about a civil war. Like it's like a about a story taking place during a civil war, but it's essentially about these like photojournalists in their way to try to kind of make their name during a very historical period. So it's interesting and it's very aesthetically pleasing. So that was really good. But
Is it like
yeah,
a fictional thing or is
yeah,
it?
it's not based on like a real story or anything.
Gotcha.
So yeah, just trying to stay busy, trying to be
No, I
like
think that's cool.
yeah, trying to like not like bed rot.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of take something like that and that normally someone would see like watching movies something lazy or people might look at it that way, but doing something like that as a looking it through a learning process, but also kind of a winding down process, I think is cool. Like people will kind of look at reading and they'll be like, oh, if you're reading a book, you're productive. But if you are also learning from watching a documentary, people will think that as, a lazy thing because you're sitting on the couch and watching TV. But you could be learning just as much, if not more, from the documentary or from gaining inspiration from watching this movie that you can then apply to your work. So I think that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. And especially when you like regiment it where it's like I'm doing one every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think what kind of made me think about it is like I think we live in a generation that has a like diminishing attention span.
Definitely.
And so like people will like scroll on TikTok, scroll on Twitter. And I do this. I mean, I scroll on YouTube and TikTok, not TikTok, but Twitter often.
Me too.
But like to force yourself to sit down and like watch a 2 hour movie and not look at your phone, like I think it's a good practice. Like obviously you're still looking at a screen, you're still being entertained, but it is a different entertain than like just like the worst Twitter thread you've ever seen about why, Austin Eckler's actually the best, receiver or RB2 in fantasy. Like it's just like you're actually interacting with something that is in theory worthwhile. Because when you're scrolling, you're taking in information and immediately forgetting it. Like it's stuff that you're not regaining. So that's sort of kind of what has, I don't like, yeah, it is. You're right. It is like you're winding down and trying to kind of gain stuff. I also just think like, yeah, it's more entertaining. Like movies are more entertaining than like Twitter and TikTok. So that's sort of what I've been trying to get into, which is nice. Going on walks and whatnot. Like it's kind of nice. It's just like I feel like it's just kind of like winding down. Like I feel like less stressed right now than I have in like a long time, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's something I've been trying to work on is building my attention span. And part of that is just forcing yourself to be, I, I would say forcing yourself to just sit in boredom sometimes. And not that a movie would necessarily be boring, but I also couldn't tell you the last time I watched a movie and didn't check my phone like a bunch of
Right.
times while watching it.
Right.
Um, One thing I've been doing for that is I've been going on these runs and I stopped using headphones to listen to music or podcasts or anything like that. And it's actually been helpful once you get to a longer length, in my opinion, to make the time go by faster. Because when I'm playing music in my headphones or listening to a podcast, all that does is prevent me from completely zoning out.
Right.
And then I'm like, if I'm listening to something actively like that, then I'm constantly like keeping track of like time in my head. Whereas if I just don't wear the headphones at all and all I have is what's the sounds going in my ears from what's going on around me, I find it a lot easier to just kind of like zone out. And then, there was a period on my run today where I went like a mile or two. And I was like, whoa, I haven't even checked my watch as to how far I've gone. I just completely zoned out for 20 minutes. Where I feel like if I was listening actively to a podcast or music, I would never fully zone out.
No, honestly, like, yeah, I think that's valid. Like yesterday, I was mowing my mom's lawn and like my earbuds like just stopped working. And like again, mowing along and you're just kind of walking. Like I was like, it was like a push mower. It's like whatever, it's big long. But it was like, yeah, it was like I just like was like lost in that as opposed to listening to whatever podcast or whatever. And you're right, it does kind of go by quicker. And that's interesting because like I feel like we dread like I can't run. I mean, it's not I can't run, but like I don't run often. And so it's just one of those things like I dread. It's like, yeah, the only way I could get through that is if I'm listening to a podcast and I get lost in that. But it's kind of the opposite a little bit.
Mhm. And I think the longer the duration, the different amount that is. Like if I'm just going on, I don't wear headphones at all anymore, but because I'm trying to train myself specifically for that. But I could, if I'm just going for a 2 or 3 mile run, then yeah, I'll listen to music and that's what like 4 or 5 songs or something for 2 miles. I don't know. That mean like that I could get through easier. But if I just listen to music for 15 miles like I did today, I don't think I would ever zone out. And it's like you said, kind of counterintuitive because you listen to the music and the podcast to make time go by faster, but it actually, in a way, makes time go by slower on a longer kind of time horizon. So that's what I've been doing, and it's crazy that that's kind of the world we live in with people having such short attention spans. And one thing that I think about when I kind of run through this in my mind is, do we think that's an overall, like in the long term of human society, that's like a major negative that needs to be corrected? Or is that with the rise of technology and everything, just an early kind of, we haven't had an adaptation to it yet in terms of in the future, we're just never going to be pushing a lawnmower for 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I
I mean, I
mean?
think that
And
that's fair,
eventually
but
everything's going to be so fast that we're going to adapt to it anyway. And it doesn't matter that we have such short attention spans because we're not going to have anything
yeah,
necessary for that.
I do think having a short attention span as a generation is a bad thing. Like I genuinely do. It's something I feel kind of vehemently. Like you look at like a generation coming up with the iPad kids. Like when we grew up, I want to feel like people didn't have like iPods until like they were maybe in middle school.
Hmm.
Like I feel like it was around that age is when people like that started to get introduced to us was like phones and iPhones and stuff like that. And so like we sort of already developed a lot of our brain. Now you're having kids at the age of 2 and 3 with an iPad in front of like I feel like that's going to have a negative effect on how they interact with school, not being able to just kind of sit down and interact with other like you're essentially taking away a social aspect of interacting with your surroundings, having a conversation with the people around you. um and which obviously you're 2 and 3, you're not talking to someone already, but you're going to crave that the screen. You're going to crave those colors on the screen. And then when you're 5 and 6, you're not going to want to interact with people around you. You're going to want to just look at the screen. And then it only gets worse as time goes on. So I think it's a negative thing. I think it's something that we need to kind of correct as a society. Just like not allowing our kids to have those screens at such a young age. And if there is, have it be very regimented. Obviously, I'm not a parent, so I know it's not an easy thing to be a parent. So I don't want to be like, stop giving your kids iPads. Because listen, I understand it's kind of like an easy fix in a lot of ways. Um, if your kid's crying or what have you. So yeah, I think it's a negative thing. I think it goes back. I mean, like I was just talking about the movies, but like it does kill me. Like it kills me when like I'm a big like I've talked about it before. Like I want to work on documentaries. Like I want to work on long form stuff. And it does kill me when people are like, "Oh, I could never sit down and watch a 3 hour movie." And it's like, well, why? It's like, why is that? Like, it's why can't you do that? Like, what do you mean? Like, you're an adult. Like, you can sit down for 3 hours. Like, that's fine. Um, so for me, I do think it's a negative thing. I think it's a bad thing, and I think it's only gonna just kind of get worse as time goes on unless we as like a society says, okay, let's stop giving our kids and younger people phones and limit screen time for ourselves as well. I mean, I think a lot of it at our age specifically, like at our age, it falls on us to tell ourselves, I'm not going to look at my phone right now, or I'm not going to look at my phone for however long. Like it does kind of fall on us as well. So yeah, I think negative overall, it's a negative thing.
Yeah, I think it's a negative thing for the world we currently live in right now for sure, because we still need that like deep, long, uninterrupted thought to really produce bigger things in our lives. Like to study for a test, like you can't study for a test in 1 minute increments because you're like constantly changing. You can't build a new product without long, like deep thought work. The one thing I'll say to devil's advocate, and maybe this is just way too far out thinking, But maybe there's just kind of a disconnect between that level of necessity for deep thought and the kind of society we live in now versus the society we're going to live that's going to be around in 1,000 years. Like in 1,000 years, if you can just like instantly download all of the like information from a 3 hour documentary into your brain, do you ever really need to have the patience to sit down for 3 hours? I know this is like a very like crazy
Yeah.
conversation and
Uh,
it
yeah.
doesn't mean anything. We don't know what it's going to look like. But this is the stuff I randomly think about. Like if you can just download a documentary into your brain and like we technologically advance to this point at some point of human evolution, do we ever need the full ability to do that? Maybe it's
Well, yeah, because somebody needs to make it. Like you
right.
need
Somebody needs to
attention
make it.
span. Yeah,
That's
like
the
you
other
need, yeah, you need people who have the attention span and the wherewithal to put things together. And also like, yeah, if you can retain information, retaining information is different than enjoying art. Like if you're watching a movie, you can retain the information of the plot. Okay, this happened, this person was killed, and it found out. Like you can retain that information, but are you enjoying what is happening on the screen? Like I think that's a different. Like anybody can read the plot to on Wikipedia. That doesn't mean you watched the movie. Like that movie Civil War I was talking about. If you read the plot on Wikipedia, it doesn't seem like a very good movie. Like I don't think the plot was like all that great, but it was everything that was put into the movie, how the direction of the movie, um, and as I said, it was very aesthetically pleasing. The acting was, I thought, very good. I thought, uh, like kind of the way the montages went from the director were good, but it's like from a plot summary, you're not getting any of that information. So I understand what you're getting at, and like I do, in some ways, I do think like yeah, the world is going to change. It is going to change ever so slightly every single year to help us kind of curb um because attention spans are going to continuously probably get lower and lower. The world is going to actively just make it easier for people. Um, like the whole like calculators 50 years ago, people were probably like, this is horrible. Like kids need to be able to do the math themselves. And now it's like we look at calculators and it's like, yeah, you're not going to take it, you know, a calculus class without a calculator. Like it's just, it's different for everybody. Yeah, it's going to solely, and there's going to be good things and there's going to be bad things, right? Like you look at, you know, 60 years ago, people were saying, oh, adults have attention spans because they're reading a newspaper instead of interacting with their surroundings. Like it's always going to be, there's always going to be um, a new technology, and we're going to immediately jump to it and say, hey, that's bad for your attention span. And I do think reading a newspaper is infinitely different than scrolling on TikTok. So it's going to change. But yeah, I do think the need for an attention span is just always simply going to be there. And it's like, I just hope like we can jump on this earlier, right? Earlier, so then there aren't 2 and 3 year olds who are addicted to a screen uh through their entire life and they don't know how to like interact with another human being.
Yeah. I think throughout time, the ability to have that deep focus and that longer attention span and being okay with being bored and being able to focus for long periods of time is what separates people who it's what separates producers from consumers and
Right.
people that create versus people that consume. And I think that is becoming ever more valuable in today's society. And you can get so much further in life than like such a huge portion of the population in terms of just overall life success, whether it's career, business, personal relationships, reflecting on your relationships with people, all of that stuff, status, anything like that. I think it's one of the most valuable things is becoming your ability to really focus on something.
Yeah.
I mean, like think about where you are. Like you're in a, we don't need to talk about what the job is or anything like that, but you're in a new job, you're like moving up. And a big part of that is because you were able to put in the work at your previous job, long hours of long focus, which has then propelled you forward to where you are now, and that's going to keep propelling you. A lot of people just kind of go through life and they just kind of take the easy way out and they don't have those long periods of focus and they kind of stay in that consumer bucket and they don't ever kind of produce something for themselves. And I think that's where I was for a lot of my life. And I'm kind of training myself to then fight back against that urge and do something more with it.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with you. Like there is, yeah, it goes back to I feel like we've talked about this pretty often, where it's like we think our theory is like creating something for yourself, and it doesn't have to be art, doesn't have to be media, doesn't have to be content, but having some type of creation for yourself is going to always sort of help you find that next level of enjoying life, so to speak.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like we've also even said, like for some people, it's enough to go to work and come home and be with your family, and then scroll on TikTok or watch the the Rookie on ABC. Every Wednesday night. It's like that's for some people that's enough, and I think that's valid. I think that's like totally fine. But like
I
I
think
agree.
it's fine if you acknowledge that
Yeah.
versus like you're doing that and you feel like something's missing and then you
For
never
sure. Yeah, if you're content with that, like that's the thing is, if you're content with that,
like
then that's fine.
consciously content of it. Like you
Yes.
realize that's what your life is and you don't want anything more. Then
Yeah.
for me personally, like I don't think I could ever do that forever on end and not realize like, okay, I want something more in my life.
Correct. I would feel the same way. I agree with you on that. But I
Pers-
know people who will like their whole thing is I'm gonna work for 8 hours or 9 hours and then go home, and then like it's like that's kind of like they're content with just putting in the hours, which is totally valid to just put in the hours and then go home and then just like enjoy your life by not necessarily creating anything for yourself, but just being with your family or being with friends. And again, that's like also it's fine. Again, like for me, it's like as we said, like I want to be able to create some type of art that has some type of impact on people, but specifically making it for myself, and it's something that would have an impact on myself more than anything. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And I'm not gonna lie, there's part of me that wants to say like, no, like I don't even think anyone should be thinking like that. But it's hard for me to say with, the way I've lived my life, people live a lot of, you know, there's a lot of people out there with harder lives than me, so it's a lot easier for me to say. And sometimes, bringing your family to that situation from compared to where you came from or something like that is more creation than I'll ever do in my entire life.
right,
If you grew up like really struggling to pay bills or anything like that, and then you put in the hours like that and build a sustainable life and build a family, then
yeah,
that's 1,000 times more than I've ever done in my life, and it's like a level that I hope to get to.
yeah.
I don't know, maybe I don't know. I think a lot of that is dependent on where you come from and your background and your environment growing up. Um, Here's a random thought along these lines. Do you think there are some people are born to create and some people are born to consume, or is it simply some people, like humans are born to create as a whole, and some people do, and some people never get themselves to that spot?
Uh, I don't know. I think I don't
Obviously, we
think
don't know the answer.
right. Yeah, I don't think in theory everyone is intended to create. And it's also like it's different because it's like what do we mean by create?
Hmm.
And
Got to define that first.
right, like when people jump on that, they always think, "Oh, you like content creator is a new thing," and I hate, and I've even referred to it like I think there's a difference between content and like art, right? Like people would be like, I'm consuming media right now, and it's like like a Martin Scorsese movie. It's like, no, that's not media. That's not like that's not content. Like that's art. That's not just like a guy on TikTok. Like we can differentiate the two. My point, I guess, is like people, when you say create, they go to content, but it doesn't have to be that, right? Creating a business it exists. It is a thing out there. We just mentioned, you kind of mentioned like creating a new life for your family by working your ass off and creating it. So like in theory, everyone is a creator that way, right? Everyone is there to create some type of new thing for the world. If that new thing is having your family, creating new wealth for your family, or just creating a new family, right? Creating a new family, having 3 or 4 kids, or two, even if it's one kid or two kids, like that is a part of creation as well. So in that sense of the word, yeah, everyone is in theory driven to be a creator, and not everyone is. I mean, there are people who aren't, and that's fine too, and so like I don't think there's like a divide of like, okay, this person's a creator and this person's a consumer, because in theory we're all consumers, right? We all watch stuff, we all um you know consume, right, the fruits of our parents' labor, in sense of like, well, they created a living for themselves, and now that we're their kids, we're consuming, how they raised us. So I don't know, it's tough. But yeah, I would say like there is no like there's no right answer, but it's like we're all consumers, and in theory we all should be creators. It just determines it's determinant of what is your definition of someone who creates.
Sure. I think I think just talking through this, my answer to that would be everyone is destined to be a creator in their own kind of subset of rules of what that means. But everyone, I think, just as a human race, was made to work hard and accomplish something in order to create whatever that is. Does that make sense? Like, I
Yeah,
think we all have a burning, I don't know about burning, but like a programmed thing in our minds to work hard at something and accomplish things.
yeah.
And that's how we derive happiness and the feeling of accomplishment. And a lot of times that means creating things, or creations are kind of byproducts of that. But I think where a lot of people struggle is if they aren't actively working really hard at something, then they feel like something's missing in their life. I
Mm,
was thinking about this on my run today, and it's like, if I wasn't on this marathon prep and I wasn't training, uh like I don't know if I would have gotten up at 6 a.m. today to run with
right.
like and wake up with a purpose to work hard at something because I have a goal. Like if I didn't have that goal, I might have just like slept in today and just like kind of shit around all day until I had to go leave to go on this drive to Nashville this weekend. But it's like if I didn't have, goals for my health, my physique, my content, my marathon training, like I don't know if I would have gotten up at 6 a.m. today. And I think without those goals and that, something to facilitate hard work, I don't know if I would have done that. And if I didn't have that, I would probably feel like there was something missing in my life. And I think a lot of people are in that boat and they just got to pick a goal that they really want to achieve, and that'll solve a lot of their problems.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, yeah, part of it is just like wanting the masses to do more things, right? Like put down the phone, and I think it goes back down to like, instead of just scrolling, doing something measurable in your life, and like I agree. Like it is sort of like just finding a goal and working towards that goal every day is certainly going to help. But like it goes back, and it's like there is part of me that's like, it is sometimes a privilege to be able to work towards a specific goal outside of work, right? Like I think back to when my parents were raising me and my 4 siblings. Like, yeah, they probably didn't have any time to work on much anything outside of raising their kids and going to school. Not going to school, excuse me, going to work.
Mm.
So yeah, it falls back. So it's like, yeah, people our generation, people our age, if we have the time, like it's almost worthwhile now, um, to work towards something. And I guess last week I even said, I was like, well, like there shouldn't be like, you shouldn't put pressure on yourself. Oh, I'm 23, I have to do all these things by now, which is true. I think you shouldn't be putting pressure to accomplish all your goals by the time you turn 30 or by the time you have your first kid, but continuously working on something is only going to like, it's going to create habits for yourself. When, if you're 23 right now and you're running every day, you're not going to like, when you're 30, it's not like you're going to be like, oh yeah, remember when I did that? Like, no, you're gonna want to continue to at least do that. You know, it's you still want to have it be part of your life. If it's every day or not, it probably won't be every day, but it's still something that you're gonna want to do. So yeah, it's kind of creating those habits that will only in turn kind of create those goals.
Definitely. I think for anyone out there, if you're listening to this and you feel like something's missing in your life, like maybe you just go to work, go to school, come home, don't even know what to do, and just scroll and burn time and then go to bed. And then you wake up and you're like, I don't know, there's got to be something more to this. There's a lot of people our age that are out of college and now they're kind of like, really? There's nothing more to life than I wake up, I go to work, I come home, I make dinner, I go to bed. And you're like, there's got to be something more. That something more, in my opinion, is on you to go find a goal that you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And for some people, like your parents, when they were raising you and your siblings, and honestly, my parents too, if you have to put all of your energy into that, like you don't need like another goal either.
Yeah, true. That's
So,
very
like
true.
everyone's circumstances are different. But for the people that are feel like they're missing something, I feel like picking that goal and finding out what that is. And it doesn't even need to like advance your life
Yeah.
financially or anything like that. Like
Yeah.
this marathon has been big for me. Not gonna, it's cost me money,
Right.
but
No, no. Yeah.
yeah, but I don't know. That's my message for
Yeah,
people out there that feel like they're missing something in their life.
I agree. Like, yeah, I don't mean to be like a Debbie Downer with the whole thing, but like, yeah, you're right. Like, there are people out there that are, I don't know. I feel like it is easy for me to be like, no, everyone's gonna be okay. But like, that's part of the reason I say that is because like I like my job and my job kind of fulfills a lot of my mental, what I like doing. So, but yeah, there's a lot of people who don't like doing their job, so that's fair.
All
I think
right. Well,
I might go on a run this week. You know,
what's up?
I think I might go on a run this week. I think you've inspired me.
Let's go.
See how it goes.
Gotta go no headphones.
I think I might go no headphones. I don't know. I only have one pair of headphones and only one of the earbuds works, so they basically are useless. But is
You
what it
feel like a
is.
beast when you get it done. Just runs in
Oh,
general, but also with no headphones, you're like, wow, like I just dominated life.
yeah,
It's pretty great.
yeah. We'll
But
see.
you got any goals for this upcoming week?
No, we'll say running. We'll say running. We'll
There you
say
go. There you go.
it is today is Friday. Next Friday. I don't know, what's a realistic goal for first week?
Well,
Like
how many times do you think you're gonna try to run?
I'm gonna try to run 4 times.
4 times. Okay.
So,
When was the last time you ran? Like, and have you ever ran before?
yeah, I mean I ran track in high school, but
Yeah.
I ran most recently like a month ago.
And
I
how
ran
far
like
did you run?
2 miles and it was not fun. I'll
I
put it
think
that
if
way.
you go 4 times, you should just try to like make it really easy on yourself if you're trying to make it like a long-term thing to just run like a mile.
All right. A mile per day. All right. I
Yeah.
can do that. I can do
I
that.
think that's a lot more valuable than just being like, oh my God, I have to run
Right. And then
10
you're gonna
miles
burn.
at a time and I have to get 20 miles in this
Oh,
week. And then no, like to
right.
just get in the routine of like lacing up your shoes and leaving the house and then running and then being
Because
done.
I go on walks. Like that's typically what I do is I'll go
That's
on
great.
walks.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same, but it is fun. I do enjoy doing that quite a bit. Freeze the mind. You know.
There you go. My biggest goals next week are to just kill my tests. Um,
Nice.
I got a test on Tuesday and on Wednesday. First tests of grad school. I guess one thing I didn't even talk about. Um, I'm getting my master's in real estate. Uh, and I just also got accepted into the MBA program. So they kind of overlap a little bit. Like my MBA will be with a concentration in real estate. So then I'll get my master's in real estate as well. So a lot of the classes overlap. So I'm
Hmm.
only taking four more classes, but now in the 2-year program that I'm in, I'm going to leave with a master's in real estate and an MBA.
Oh,
So
that's sick.
I'm technically getting 2 degrees right now, which, yeah, which is great. I mean, it doesn't add like a ton more. I just take an extra class every semester now.
Yeah.
Because like I said, the course loads kind of overlap. But yeah, so of this whole 2-year process, I have my first tests and I have two of them in a row. So
Nice.
my goal next week is to just kill that. And then yeah, that's priority number one. So really that's it.
Well, hey, best of luck.
Thanks, brother. All right. Well, unless you got anything else, I think that
Yeah.
suffices for this week. Episode 18.
18. Peyton
We're getting
Manning.
consistent, man. This was the Peyton episode.
Peyton episode.
Or the Marvin Harrison Jr. episode. I think he's number 18.
I'm trying to think of else is 18. I can't think of anyone. Jared Goff is 16.
Yeah, we surpassed the Jared Goff and the Philip Rivers episodes. And now
Yeah.
we're on the Peyton Manning Marvin Harrison Jr. episode. And then next week is 19.
Joe
Was
Montana. Skylar Thompson.
Joe Montana was 16, wasn't he?
He wore 19 with the Chiefs, though.
Hmm. Pretty sure like Johnny Unitas was 19.
Wouldn't surprise me. Skylar Thompson's 19.
Skylar Thompson is definitely 19.
He's not very good, but that's okay. I
Tyler,
think-
Tyler Huntley season for the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. No Ryan Tannehill. Surprised, maybe a little
Yeah,
bit.
I know he probably doesn't want to go. I was so shocked that Tannehill didn't sign with the Packers with LaFleur.
Well, him and Malik Willis, I think there's some beef there.
Yeah, maybe.
I
Malik
don't want
Willis
to
is
spend.
like the greatest guy of all time, though. So I don't know.
Seems like he's like the greatest individual to ever exist.
Yeah, and I'm going to that game. Packers Titans.
Packers Titans.
Malik
Packers.
Willis revenge game.
Well, they asked him about
Yeah,
it. He was like, all the checks still cleared. He was like, last time I checked, I still got paid on time. And
yeah,
I don't know.
that was kind of a great response from him, to be
Yeah, he had
honest.
he had a good answer.
But
Yeah,
you
like
got to think like part of you is kind of like, yeah, I'd love to kind of like.
oh, for sure. But he doesn't want to feel the fire. Like he doesn't want to feel the fire. Like he's not going to be like imagine he was like, yeah, I hate the Titans. Well, first off, Vrabel's not even there anymore. Like he doesn't know that. Like
That's
Bill
also
Callahan,
true.
I don't think they ever interacted. So if he was just like, yeah, I hate Bill Callahan and Ryan Tannehill, it'd be like, well, that's random. You don't know Bill Callahan and Ryan Tannehill's not on the team anymore. Um,
That quarterback class was awful. Thinking about it.
uh,
I
yeah, it
was
was pretty.
super high on Malik Willis just because it was the like peak era of like all you need in a quarterback is like elite tools. Like give me athleticism and give me a huge arm, and that's all you need because you saw, Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, and then all of these people like have success just based on that, and even like Jalen Hurts, like rushing ability, rushing ability, and then I was like, oh, Malik Willis, he's like rocked up, good athlete, rocket arm. This guy's got to be good. And then everyone was like, no, like he literally can't process anything.
Yeah,
And that was kind of true. But he was my quarterback one in that draft class. And I mean, it kind of it was Kenny Pickett, who is irrelevant. Sam Howell, irrelevant. Like
yeah.
Matt Corral, irrelevant.
In the league.
He's kind of the most relevant. Like at this point, he's the most relevant. Sam Howell had and Pickett obviously had like chances to start and are like probably still better.
What
But
year
like,
was that 2021 or 2022?
I'm gonna say 21, but could be wrong. Let's look it up.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
In 22.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, 2021 was the Zach Wilson draft, which was also kind of a bad draft. Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Bailey Zappi, Desmond Ritter.
Brock Purdy was in
I
that.
think Brock Purdy was the big one. Oh, Skylar Thompson. More Skylar Thompson talk. Um, I think, if I remember, I think Desmond Ritter might have been my number one, which he's bad. Isn't he not even on the roster right now? I don't know.
He was awful, like so bad on the Falcons last year, and then got traded to the Cardinals for
They cut
Rondell
him.
Moore, I believe, and then Rondell Moore tore his ACL or something, and Ritter, I think, got cut.
I think he did too.
Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously Purdy's the best in that, but like no one was ranking Purdy anywhere, obviously. So I don't feel bad about my analysis.
I believe.
Malik
Who's your, who's
Willis,
your
who's
QB1?
in
Who's your QB1 in this draft?
this upcoming draft? I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm so like out of the loop. Um, who were the guys we're looking at? Loki,
Sh-
Cam Ward.
Shadur. Uh,
Shadur.
Quinn
Uh,
Ewers, Carson Beck.
yeah, I don't think this draft class is very good, to
No.
be honest.
And then
I think
after,
Shadur is okay, but I really don't like his pocket awareness. I think he creates a lot
his,
of
his
sacks.
pocket presence is really bad.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, a lot of college quarterbacks got pocket
Oh yeah.
presence because you can get away with it in college. Like you can really easily get away with it in college.
A lot of times
But
there's better
um,
athletes than the people trying to tackle them, and that
it,
doesn't always
it,
happen.
it doesn't translate. Yeah, like that's the thing is like I think Caleb Williams is kind of struggling with that a little bit right now, like the pocket awareness. Johnny Manziel is probably the biggest. Johnny Manziel and Zach Wilson are probably the biggest example. No pocket awareness, but it worked. It looked really cool in college, and then the moment it went into the NFL, it was like, oh, this does not translate whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
And I think CJ Stroud, obviously being really good last year, kind of threw a wrench into this. But I think after this year, it's going to be like it's going to be like you need to sit your rookie quarterback because you might just like kill his career. Like Bryce Young, Caleb Williams struggling right now. Um, I think it's going to be
yeah,
the norm to make them sit. And I don't think it's that they can't come in and have success because we've seen Stroud do that. We've seen like Andrew Luck and RG3 like come in and Cam Newton have immediate success. But I think it's because they had good surrounding cast around them. And you just don't always know, even if your surrounding cast looks good on paper, you just don't know if it's going to be good. And like put a veteran out there, get a baseline for what is really happening for the team for their first couple weeks, and then decide if you can put your quarterback in. And I think that's kind of going to be the norm going forward. Um,
yeah, maybe it would have been funny last night if we're recording this after Thursday Night Football, Patriots Jets. If Drake May threw a passing touchdown and he was the first rookie quarterback to throw a passing touchdown just by only having one drive.
it
But
would have
like
been like close at the end, wasn't he, in the red zone?
they got into the red zone, then he got sacked, and then I think they were like, "All right, we're gonna just wrap it up, guys." Super sim. So, which makes like I kind of like I get it. Like
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett was getting smoked
Yeah,
all
he's
game.
getting
He's getting cooked. So it's like I get like why you don't start your rookie quarterback behind a line like that.
Yeah.
David Carr, biggest example. So
There
we'll
you go.
see.
Bryce Young. Ugh.
I feel bad.
I feel
So
awful for Bryce Young. I think that is like the perfect case of he went into a horrible situation and they played him and then they just broke him. Because now he's
there's
just
also
horrible. And that's just like
the
the level of
context.
prospect he was at Alabama. Like maybe we overrated him,
Yeah.
but like he can't even play football. It's like that doesn't just happen because we overrated him, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's also the context of the trade of like the Panthers gave up everything for this guy.
Yeah.
And the Bears, like the
Which I
Bears might
didn't
not
agree with at the time at all.
I don't think many people did, but maybe that's hindsight's 2020. But I feel like most people were like, "Oh, that's a lot." Like DJ Moore and all these picks for the first overall pick. Like you're giving up your next year's first overall pick too. Like I guess you have to if you train for the first overall pick, you kind of have to give up that ransom. But mean, they were only moving up 7 spots. Like they were a bad roster. The roster didn't really get better because you got rid of DJ Moore. So yeah,
Yeah,
no
I
Bears
mean, I think
please.
in hindsight, they'd probably agree with this. What they should have done is done that for Bryce Young and realized they gave up so much for him that like it needs to work out. So let's play Andy Dalton first and make sure we're not throwing him into a dumpster fire.
Yeah,
And then they threw him into a dumpster fire for 16 games or whatever. And I was like, oof.
that was
But
bad. That was
eh,
talking ball. I was talking ball right there. All right, we'll see you next week, I guess.
all right. We'll see you guys in the next one for the Johnny Unitas episode. If he's not number 19, I'm gonna look so dumb.
Go Montana on the Chiefs
Joe
episode.
Montana on the Chiefs episode for sure. And pretty sure Kadarius Toney was 19. Is
I
that
don't
right?
know. Don't know. Sounds right. But he also, yeah, it does sound right. Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson episode coming next. Peace out.
All right.